Hello again, and welcome to today's lesson on reported speech, otherwise known as indirect speech. This is the second video lesson on reported speech, and in this lesson we are going to talk about how we use reported speech with modal verbs. First up, I'm going to go through how we backshift all 9 modal verbs. If you don't know what backshift means, it refers to the fact that we move our tense back when we report the speech that somebody said. If you're not sure what I mean, then you definitely should watch video 1 that I just mentioned. So I'll go through the modals now, one at a time, with examples of backshifting. But just remember, we do not always have to backshift. I'll talk more about this after I go through how we can backshift with modal verbs. Let's go. The first direct quote, John can play the guitar. In reported speech, he said John could play the guitar. We've moved the tense back 1, just like we do with our tenses. Can in the past tense is could. This works the same in questions. Can you play the guitar? She asked me if I could play the guitar. Or we could also say, she asked me whether I could play the guitar. We add if or whether with yes/no questions. Then we can talk about could. We can't move could back any further. Just like the past perfect, we cannot backshift could. There is no past of could. I could beat him in a thumb wrestle. He said he could beat you in a thumb wrestle. Okay, could. Moving on to shall. When we use shall in statements, we backshift to would. I shall go to the concert. She said she would go to the concert. In questions, however, shall backshifts to should. Shall we see a movie tonight? She asked me if we should see a movie tonight. And should, again, should we cannot backshift. This is already in the past. You should see a doctor. In reported speech, she told me I should see a doctor. Then we have will. I'll call her tomorrow. She said she'd call her tomorrow. So will backshifts to would. And this is the way that we backshift all of our future aspects, as they all use the modal verb will. Next up, would. We cannot backshift. We are already in the past. I would like to go to Spain. He told me he'd like to go to Spain. Would you like a coffee? What did he say? He asked you whether you'd like a coffee. Next modal verb, we have may. I may have drunk too much last night. Reported speech, he said he might have drunk too much last night. May is an interesting one. When the modal verb may is used to mean a possibility, as per this example, we can backshift to might. He said he might have drunk too much last night. It's a possibility, so we can backshift to might. But if we use the modal verb may to mean permission, for example, you may borrow any book you like, then we can backshift to could. Hey, what are you doing with that book? Sorry, the professor said we could borrow any book we like. That's how that one works. In questions, we also backshift to could, as we are asking for permission. May I borrow this book? He asked me if he could borrow the book. Next up, we have might. Might does not change. I might be late. She said she might be late. So that just leaves must, which is the most interesting of them all. Check this out. If must is used to mean an obligation, something you must do, something you have to do, then we can backshift to had to. You must wear a helmet if you ride your bike. She told him he had to wear a helmet if he rides his bike. This also works for questions. Must you make so much noise? She asked us if we had to make so much noise. In the negative, we backshift to was not. You must not go near him. The judge said you were not to go near him. If must is used to show that you are speculating or assuming something, or for general laws or rules, then we don't backshift in the positive or negative. For example, it must be a tough job. She said it must be a tough job. This is an example of assuming. Or, you must not drive more than 60 kilometers per hour. She said you mustn't drive more than 60 kilometers per hour. A general law. Alright, so that's all of the modal verbs and all of the backshifting we can do with each of them. Apart from the last one, I think they are fairly straightforward. Not easy. I definitely sympathise with you that these are confusing, but they are kind of logical in the most part. Can becomes could, shall becomes should in questions, and would in statements. Will becomes would, may becomes might for a possibility, and could for permission, and must, well, that's a special beast, isn't it? You can think of it this way. If must is saying something we have to do, then we can backshift to had to do. And all the other ways we use must for general laws or for making assumptions, we do not backshift. For negative obligations, just to trick us, mustn't becomes was not. You mustn't tell anyone. She said I was not to tell anyone. Now, that is how we backshift all 9 modal verbs. Do you want some good news? We don't always have to backshift. The same as we do not always have to backshift with our tenses, we do not always have to backshift the tenses of our modal verbs. The times that we sometimes don't backshift is when we want to make it clear that what the speaker said is still true now or is very relevant now. For example, a direct quote from John, I can drive a car. Does John know how to drive a car? Yeah, he told me he can drive a car. Or, hey, thanks for babysitting. Please remember little Johnny must wear his helmet when he rides his bike. Hey Johnny, come here. Your mother told me you must wear your helmet when you ride your bike. Another time that we sometimes don't backshift is when we are reporting something that somebody often says or repeats. When we do this, the reporting verb is used in the present tense. Jimmy says he will win the boxing match easily. And we can also leave the reporting verb in the present tense and not backshift when we want to emphasize that the point is relevant now. Hey, you two, stop. You must not cross the barricade. What did he say? He said we mustn't cross the barricade. Alright, so that is an introduction to reported speech in modal verbs. I hope you found it helpful. What you really need to do, now that you have the information, is to practice it. I have courses being added to the Grammarman Academy all the time, with interactive quizzes, video lessons and quizzes and packages and everything that you need to master English. Make sure you check that out regularly. The Grammarman Academy website is in the description. Thanks for watching, have an incredible day, and I'll see you very soon for our next English lesson. Cheers.